From the studios of Books in Motion, this is Michael Gilbert, reading See Something, Say Nothing, by Philip Haney and Art Moore. Now let's begin with the foreword by U.S. Representative Michelle Bachmann, former member of the U.S. Congress and the House Select Committee on Intelligence. As a member of the House Select Committee on Intelligence, I helped oversee the nation's clandestine services, focusing primarily on classified information related to the rise of terrorism through Islamic Jihad. 10 years before I was appointed to the committee, America was attacked on September 11, 2001, by dedicated and trained young Muslim men. President George W. Bush and the U.S. Congress responded by creating the Department of Homeland Security. Intended to thwart future terror attacks, airline security procedures were initiated at American airports, together with security measures at nuclear power plants, water reservoirs, electrical power stations, and more. Behind the scenes, our government hired men and women to create new security procedures to identify and to stop individuals who were terror risks from entering the United States. Other positions were created to look for patterns and links to terror organizations, trying to bring down the United States both from within and without our borders. The United States made a decision to go on offense to protect the American people, our property, and our way of life against another 9/11. We now know that 9/11 was an attack by terrorists motivated by a literal belief in and active adherence to establishing Islamic Sharia law in the U.S. as the law of our land. But in the immediate aftermath of the 9/11 tragedy, our Commander-in-Chief, George W. Bush, and his administration publicly insisted Islam was a, quote, religion of peace, unquote. To the American people, the religion of peace narrative sounded suspicious and didn't ring true to what the nation had just endured. They saw young, foreign-born Muslim men living in America on expired visas. Americans saw young men who intentionally trained for horrific attacks against our nation under the direction of the infamous terrorist that former President Bill Clinton chose to let get away in the 1990s, Osama bin Laden. Bin Laden was committed to acts of terrorism to advance the establishment of a global Islamic government, a caliphate ruled by Islamic Sharia law. Bin Laden and his Muslim followers believed it was their duty to their God Allah to destroy America, which they regarded as a, quote, friend of Satan, unquote. Strangely, the U.S. government willfully blinded itself to the Islamic terrorist motivation found in the guidebooks of Islam, the Quran, and the Hadith. This motivation ignited violent terror against the United States and has only intensified around the world since. In other words, the official position of the U.S. government regarding the origin of 9/11 was, quote, don't believe your lying eyes, unquote. Enter Philip Haney. A founding member of the newly established Department of Homeland Security, Philip wasn't a guy looking to punch a clock until he could collect a pension check from the federal government. He dedicated himself, rather, to investigating the actual evidence of Islamic Jihad as it really was, not as the forces of official bureaucratic political correctness deemed it should be. As evidence of Philip's work ethic and value to DHS, he was granted numerous awards and certificates of commendation by his superiors. Living in post-9/11 America, citizens instinctively hoped and blindly trusted that our government had hired legions of Philip Haneys to diligently search for and uncover terror plots. We wanted to believe our government was actively looking for clues and puzzle pieces to expose terror plots before another 9/11 unfolded. Philip did exactly that. He punched above his weight and amazingly uncovered networks and names of terrorists and more. He went to his superiors with his information, but was
Sample complete. Ready to continue?